Tonight's talk is about changing the energy blockages that we have and the patterns from the past. And my name is Emilie, and some of you may know me if you've joined talks before. And big welcome to those of you who are joining for the first time. And sorry that we had a few sound issues. So I'm an energy practitioner, and I've been working with energy for a long time, more than 20 years, and trying to help people to change inherited energy patterns and patterns from the past that are holding them back. And I was explaining that the most powerful thing that I have seen to transform people's lives is when they start to change the patterns that they've inherited from previous generations. And it really gives a whole new boost of energy and change to their life. So I was talking about energy blockages and what they are. I think some of you, or most of you, will probably be aware of the different blockages that you may have in your life. And we all have different things that we want to change. So some of you may be going through relationship difficulties and maybe things that keep repeating themselves, or problems with your family, or repeated problems with your health, or with money, or with moving forward. There are many areas where we feel blocked and that we want to change this pattern. So there's going to be something in this talk, I hope, for all of you. And we are all trying to shift those blockages so that we can achieve what we want, and so that we can change our life, and so generally that we can be happier and that we can be healthier. And of course, all of us want to have a happy and healthy life. And as an energy practitioner, I see many different people that want to change something. They want to heal something, they want to change their life. And of course, there are many people that feel that there are repeated physical or emotional patterns in their life that they can't change. And it's my job as an energy practitioner to identify the different types of blockages that are holding them back so that they can release them and move forward and change their life. And I'm going to tell you a lot about inherited patterns, but we are offering a free consultation with this talk for those of you who would prefer to talk one-to-one and find out a bit more about your own energy blockages and what you can do about them. And in my experience of helping different people, I believe there are actually 3 fundamental energy blockages that affect all areas of our life. And once we understand those, and once you identify them yourself, it's much easier to know how to change and how to heal and how to make the changes you want to in your life. But to be honest, the strongest influence for most people that I see are, of course, the patterns from the past. And we inherit our DNA, our physical makeup from our parents. And we look like our parents. You know, we inherit everything from our family. We all understand that. And also, we understand that our upbringing and our childhood experiences also have a huge impact on our physical and emotional well-being as an adult. And most people who I talk to, when I talk about changing patterns from the past, their first thought is about changing their own past, their childhood, the emotional things they've been through, and the problems that they think have created so much pain or so many blockages that they can't move forward, and that's always holding them back. But actually, what this talk is about is for people to understand that many of the things that we've experienced or we've been through in our life actually sometimes go much, much further back than our own childhood. And there can be, you know, unhealthy patterns or emotional patterns, physical patterns that pass down through all the generations of the family. And that has a profound effect and also really extensive effect on our life today. So the memories, the experiences, and the emotions of our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents and great-grandparents and going back, you know, many people that we don't know, it's hard to understand, but their patterns, their life experiences exist still as energy and vibration and are passed down and affect our life. So it's not just our physical DNA that we inherit. We have a body, mind, and spirit. And we don't just inherit physical things from our family. Everything is passed down. So when people start to change the patterns from the past, from their ancestors, that actually has a huge impact on the present and can change the future. And I've seen people who are grappling with so many feelings and problems just start to clear those patterns that they thought were originally their own. So I might give you some examples because I meet a lot of people. So some examples of patterns from the past that you may think is just happening in your own lifetime. So let's take relationships. Of course, there are many people who are stuck in unhealthy or perhaps unhappy relationships. And it can take a lot of courage to leave those relationships. And if it's the right thing and you do leave that relationship, then often people feel, you know, real relief and hope for the future and a new direction. And it seems that they can change their life pattern. And of course, that can be the case. But I've met many people who then, with new hope, find a new relationship. And I think someone has a problem with the sound. Just one moment. Yeah, there's some people have a new relationship or repeated relationships that they think are different, but turn out to have the same patterns and the same problems. And this can not be the case only for relationships. It can be in our career or with how we deal with money or the things we attract into our life. Because even if we leave a relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean that we've changed our energy or our vibration or the karma from the past. So without knowing, we are attracting the same vibration and the same type of person back into our life. Is there a problem? Yeah. And so it is really important to heal the past if you want to change your future and create a different outcome. And another thing that I see with a lot of people and clients, a different kind of problem is anxiety. I meet so many people who are suffering from anxiety, and I think it's a much wider and bigger problem than most people realize, because a lot of people are too shy or maybe embarrassed to talk about the level of anxiety that they have. And of course, there are many people suffering from depression and anxiety that follows a life experience or a bad situation or something that they went through. And that really needs a different type of healing. But I have met countless people of all ages, from all backgrounds, who have unexplained anxiety and sometimes unexplained anger that often goes back to their childhood. And they can't, and when they become an adult and they really think, I need to heal these patterns, this internal anxiety or this repeated anger, then they look back to their childhood and they can find the origin, but they don't know the cause. And for most of these people that I meet or clients, I explain that it's probably not their anxiety, it is probably not their anger if they have no root to explain it. And we are actually, some of our emotions and feelings and thoughts that we have aren't our own. And although we have a body, mind, and spirit, we are affected by all types of energy and vibration that we can't see. And the memories and the anger and the anxieties and fears and worries and all the traumas and events that our ancestors went through in their life, they don't disappear. So nothing disappears, because even though the physical life has parted, the vibration lives on. And you may be thinking, well, you know, how has my great-grandfather's experiences in the First World War really got anything to do with my emotions and my problems in my life right now? And of course, it may not be that literal. But if you take the example of a house or a building, you know, if you go to a new corporate office building, you know, they don't really have any feeling or any soul or any specific energy. But if you go to a 200-year-old house, and if whether you're sensitive to energy or not, if you go into that house, you feel the atmosphere, you feel the layers and layers and layers of history and energy in that place. that hasn't disappeared. It's built up on and built up and built up. And that's just a house. And for people, we have layers, layers and layers and layers and layers passed down from previous generations. And then, of course, we have layers and layers and layers of our own emotions on top of that. So we are holding all the things from the past. And if you want a more scientific viewpoint, then there you can look up the recent study with epigenetics, which is a scientific study to prove that memory has been passed down through families. I really think there should be more said about it. It's quite extraordinary when you think about it. If you think that the memories of your ancestors are part of you, part of your DNA, part of your energy system, then that shows that a lot of our thoughts and patterns are probably not our own. So in terms of energy, in terms of Eastern philosophy, because this energy practice is from South Korea, you know, the Eastern idea would be to think that the karma, good and bad karma, is passed down in the family. And so all the things that have happened still exist today. So there's not really actually a difference between the past and the present and the future. But if you change the vibration, then everything changes and you can create a different future for yourself. So to think about that in another way, if you want to build a big, beautiful house that you want to enjoy with your family and welcome your friends and enjoy your life there, the most important thing is the foundation of the house, which you can't see under the earth, has to be safe and strong and stable. And the foundation, of course, is our ancestors. And in the same way, if you think about a tree that's producing fruit, for healthy fruit, you have to have a healthy root, and all the nutrition is under the earth, invisible, coming from the root. And the root is our ancestors. So our ancestors are still part of our life, and their energy still very much affects us. And the memory and the patterns live on. So lots of things can be inherited, such as anxieties or phobias or fears or even addictions can pass through many generations. Patterns in relationships we talked about, patterns with money. Things have often been repeated from the past. So, you know, you can think about it in terms of looking at your friends. If you look at all your different friends and family, and of course, we've all got those friends who are really lucky, normally lazy because they're so lucky. Everything just works out, you know, they don't need to try very hard, everything will go well, and their life is just a good luck story. And then we have other friends who really put so much effort into changing things, improving things, trying to make something happen, and they always have bad luck. And of course, you know, life is not that simple. So we have good luck in some areas, bad luck in others, and different times. But I think if you deeply think about your own life, you know deep in your heart what your karma is, what you're carrying, what kind of foundation you have. And sometimes we know that we're kind of struggling against the wind. And in certain areas of our life, it just doesn't seem anything to do with your own mind and your own efforts that you can't change. And that's when it's about changing the past. And so we, as I said at the beginning, we don't just inherit our DNA. We are a product of our parents and all our ancestors' lives. And we have so many vibrations and patterns and different energies around us that are part of our life. And I guess, you know, maybe to explain why I'm so passionate about this subject and so interested in healing the ancestors and the past is because of my own story, which I'm going to share with you. And I suffered from chronic health problems for a number of years in my early 20s. I actually got ill almost overnight. It was very sudden, and it was at the end of my teens. And it was a time in my life where, which was very, you know, exciting, and there was looking forward to my future. And all my friends started traveling the world and meeting their partners and studying and getting new jobs and really enjoying life. And I was stuck ill in my parents' home, unable to change anything, and all my kind of dreams and ambitions started to crumble. And this went on actually for many years into my 20s. So my journey, that was very different to what I expected, started to be one of seeing many doctors and natural therapists and trying to find a solution, which I didn't find for many years, for my health. And when you can't fulfill your dreams and your hopes for and things you want to do in your life, you start to go on a more spiritual inner journey, which of course is what happened to me. And eventually I came across this energy healing practice, after trying lots of different things. It was a South Korean healing practice, and I started energy classes. And the energy classes began to help my health, and I steadily started to improve. But from the beginning, at this practice, they talked about healing past patterns and ancestors. And I was in my 20s. It was a little bit strange, and I wasn't very sure about it. But they told me, that I needed to heal the ancestors' energy that was affecting me. And I was a very sensitive person, and I had been looking into some spiritual things. And eventually, I did the course, which we call Ancestor Healing, and it was the most extraordinary, life-changing thing I've ever done. And actually not just for my health, it opened up so many other doors. So as I say, I was suffering from physical health problems, actually couldn't walk properly, and I was in a wheelchair for certain periods of that time. And but when I did the Ancestor Healing, there wasn't an immediate, miracle physical cure. I can't tell you that. But although I was frustrated and I was disappointed, I was always quite a positive person, and over the years you accept your situation and you try to deal with it positively. But when I did the course, at the end of it, and it's quite short, it's 3 weeks, I felt the most extraordinary mental change and the most extraordinary clarity that I had never really felt before. And I didn't have depression. I was frustrated. I have other family members who had depression, so I knew the difference. I didn't really think emotionally I was too bad, but I felt the huge change in so many kind of negative thoughts and repetitive thoughts and just heavy thoughts just lifted. I wasn't aware they were there, but I felt this huge shift. And 20 years have passed since then, and I can say that change has never gone back. Things like meditation are completely different, and there's just a peace inside that I think wasn't there before. I maybe was a little self-unaware as a young person, so it was only when it gone that I was aware of what heaviness was there. And that clarity and that kind of inner happiness stayed with me. And actually after that, those kind of amazing changes, I did recover my physical health quite quickly and quite steadily. And it took a little while to build my confidence again. And then for any of you who've been ill at a young age, when you go through something for a number of years, it was about 5 years for me, you change your outlook on life and you do the things that maybe were important to me before I got sick, had less interest when I got well. And so the Ancestor Healing and the idea that the life goes on and that we are really connected to our invisible ancestors and family line really opened my mind. And I got very interested in energy and spirituality. And I took myself off to the mountains of South Korea for many months and studied energy. And since then, I've been an energy practitioner, and I'm still as passionate about the course. And I've seen so many people, change themselves through it. Of course, healing something energetically and spiritually and invisibly is not something that you see like immediate shifts in your physical life, but you feel an energetic shift that feels much lighter and more positive, and that does filter down. And then it's easier to know what problems and what emotions but actually belong to you, rather than, I've seen so many people working so much on themselves and doing personal development courses and trying to change their kind of character and patterns and emotions and negative kind of feelings. And they can spend 25 years on that. But if the vibration of those patterns wasn't yours in the first place, then you can waste a lot of time. So it is very important to heal our mind and work on our positive thinking and consideration of others. And there are so many things we have to develop emotionally and personally. But our thoughts and our patterns, which was my experience, is really, really mixed up with what we've inherited. So I want to explain a bit more about energy so it makes a little bit more sense so that you can understand the connection. So I'm going to talk a bit about energy. And of course, I promised to explain the 3 types of energy blockages, and I will get there, that affect you. So I'm just going to show you a slide, a few slides, not many. And this one you will probably, some of you might recognize. It's the Eastern, the Chinese character for energy, which is Qi, or in Korean, and this is a South Korean practice, is pronounced Ki. And so energy, what is energy? So energy is invisible, it's intangible, and it's something that's not easy to explain, especially in the Western world, but everything is made of energy, and physical things are made of energy, and energy exists as light and vibration, and all living things have an aura, a certain light, and they're giving off a vibration. But the most important thing I would say that you need to know about energy, especially for understanding the patterns from the past, is that energy never dies. It just changes its form from one state to another. And that's why the invisible things become visible, and why the emotions and patterns from the past can still linger on. So I'm going to show you another slide, which is life. Not this one. Oh. So you can see the circle. Can you see the life? Yeah. So you can see the circle that represents the harmony and invisible energy in the universe. You know, the circle is representing balance and harmony and life. If you are religious, then this is the truth or light or God, and it's the state that contains everything. And then when you look at the physical material life, if you have a look at the other diagram, this is representing the yin and yang, which is the state in the physical material world, which the plus and minus energy exists together. So you can see for life, we have a spirit, mind, and body, and the 3 are connected. You know, our spirit is coming from the universe or light, and our physical body is coming from our parents. We inherit our DNA, and the mind is the part that belongs to us. And the mind is so powerful and so important. And during our physical life, our mind and how we think and how positive we are has an impact to brighten our spirit and to affect our health. So we all understand, you know, if we're stressed and we're negative and we are out of balance and unhappy, then that does affect our well-being and our health. And when we're compassionate and when we're loving and when we're giving and positive, then that has a great influence on brightening our spirit and brightening ourselves. So the spirit, mind, and body are connected during our life. And one thing I would like to talk about is we're talking about inherited patterns, and when you are thinking about the state of your mind during your life, I sometimes say to to clients and people I meet, you know, if you were going to leave your physical life tomorrow, what have you done in your life, and what in your mind would you be happy to leave to your loved ones, your family, and your future generations? And You know, the kindness, the compassion, the things you've done for others. What would you be happy to pass on as energy and vibration? And at the same time, if you're going to leave your physical life, what things wouldn't you want to pass on to your next generation, to your children, and to your family? You know, what are you still holding? What anger or hatred or sadness or regrets? And of course, we're unlikely to finish our physical life tomorrow, but thinking about this makes you realize all the things that we need to clear before we leave our physical life, and all the things that maybe our ancestors were holding in our mind. So I'm going to show you the next diagram, which is death. And you can see that the death is when we leave our physical life, that we leave our physical body behind. And at the moment of death, our body is returning to nature and to the earth, and our spirit and mind live on. Everything is eternal, energy never dies. So our physical body recycled by nature and the earth, and our spirit is, and our mind containing the energy and the vibration from our life. So when we would talk about the patterns, nothing disappears, and the patterns from our mind affect our physical life and affect the next generation. So with an understanding of life and death, I'm going to talk about the 3 types of energy blockages. So the 3 types of energy blockages that affect us are physical, emotional, and inherited. And the physical blockages, so physical blockages, I think it's quite easy to understand. The physical blockages are our lifestyle, and if we look at it, they're things like our diet, our exercise patterns, and the pollution in our environment. And we build up a lot of tension and energy blockages in our body according to the lifestyle we have. And you can look at your own lifestyle and think about the things that you need to change. But certainly what we eat affects our body and our mind, and it does affect our spirit and our vibration as well. So we build up tension, and especially unhealthy lifestyle habits, of course, create much deeper blockages that can affect our well-being, affect our emotions and other areas of our life. But I'm going to move on from the physical. The emotional energy blockages is a huge topic, and we have so many emotions and so many layers of patterns, and all our different emotions are creating a different vibration that can affect us. So as I mentioned, thinking about what things you would like to take with you and what things you wouldn't want to pass on to your future generations already helps us to realize the different emotions that we need to let go of. And we need to work on having a positive mind all the time. And life is not always easy. You know, there are good and bad times, and emotionally that affects us hugely. At the same time, when we work on accepting and forgiving and embracing and having compassion for ourselves, depending on what we're going through, and also for others, then you can keep a certain bright and clear vibration no matter what the difficulty. But our emotions create layers of tension, and we talked about our childhood experiences. We hold all kinds of blockages in our body, and then we build up patterns and ways of thinking and opinions and judgments and ways of responding to things because of the emotional blockages that we have. But one thing, as I mentioned before, our emotions and our thought patterns and our feelings can be so interlinked and mixed up with the patterns from our ancestors and our past, and that we can believe that so many of our problems may not actually be ours, and we're trying to deal with emotions that actually go way back before our lifetime. And that's when it makes it very, very difficult to change. So working on ourselves is important, but I think it's extremely important first to clear the patterns from our ancestors and from the past. And that's the 3rd type of energy blockages, which are inherited. And we've been talking about that quite a lot so far. Inherited blockages are the foundation that you build your life on. So it's so important to heal and change the past, because then you have a clear foundation to change your life, to take any direction you want, supported by the energy of your family and ancestors. And when we talk about healing the past, of course, it's not all about getting rid of the darkness and the karma and the bad things and the negativity. Families are built on love and respect. And in Eastern culture, respecting ancestors is really, really important. So healing the past is very much linked to respecting and being grateful to your family and ancestors. So I mentioned the Ancestor Healing course that I have done, and to change these patterns, this is one of the most powerful things that I've seen. And we offer an energy healing course. It's a spiritual course, and it takes 3 weeks. And it's a process to change the vibration and energy of those who have passed away in the family. And as I mentioned, their mind and their spirit, their energy still exists. It still affects you and stays around you. You might be able to think a bit like if you work, and no one's really working in an office at the moment, but if you work in an office and you're surrounded by people who are stressed and angry, that stress and that vibration, however positive you are, can start to influence and affect your day-to-day life, and you end up taking that home with you. In the same way, the energy and karma around you from your ancestors, if it is imbalanced and unsettled and unhappy, or there's been major problems or traumas or pain, then that energy really, really can affect your day-to-day life and thinking. So the Ancestor Healing course is done through sound, energy, and a light. So we use vibration and energy to change the patterns and heal the spirit of those who passed away and clear the energy and patterns around you. It follows traditional ceremonies and chanting. I might just show you a picture. It is quite different to kind of a Western concept, but when you're dealing with changing energy, you may have seen, I'm just going to show you briefly a picture of a ceremony. And this ceremony is offering things from nature, fruit and flowers and food, and people prepare things that they want to offer to their family from their culture. And we prepare this offering, and then the ceremony involves chanting, and we transmit energy, and you can help heal the patterns from different branches of your family. For example, your father's family branch, your mother's family branch. I'm going to show you a family tree here, so you can have a bit of a better idea of the different branches that you can help. And we are influenced by the energy from different family lines. And if you are adopted, or if you have step parents, then of course you can have influences from different energies around you that are part of your family. And you may notice there it says something called related lines. Related lines are to do with people that your ancestors had connections with, positive or negative connections, that can create some kind of strong energy that passes through the generations and affects the people you meet, or the good luck or bad luck or help or trouble that you have. So healing the energy of the ancestors is a really, really powerful process. And once you've cleared and lifted that energy around you, it really is so much easier to change yourself. So as I mentioned at the beginning, it is sometimes hard to know whether some of the problems or difficulties you're facing are really just to do with your physical life, or whether they are to do with your own personal emotional patterns that you need a kind of idea of what you need to shift, or whether you really are carrying patterns from the past that is blocking you from making any changes or moving forward. And if you want to have a chat with us, I'm going to open it up to questions in a moment. But also, I really recommend that you take the time to book the consultation. There's no obligation to do anything. We just want to have a chat and find out a bit more about you, and then you can share what things you want to change, and we can try to give you a better direction and some experience of how energy works and how you can change. So if any of you have got any questions, I think some of you have been typing questions anyway, so I'm going to try and pick up some of those questions and answer them. And also a bit later, if you want to come on screen, if you don't mind coming on video, you can also ask me your question directly. So I'm just going to have a look at some of the questions. So someone's asked, where did I do my Ancestor Healing course? I did it in London. But I actually found the practice in Australia a long time ago. And we have centres all over the world, and the course can be done in the centres or it can be done online. So actually more people do it online than they do coming to the centres, which is fine. And it works in just the same way because energy is beyond time and space. So we can help whether you're there or not and you watch it on our broadcasting system. Yeah, someone's asked if we believe in past lives and we retain energy from previous lives. So yeah, this is a very good question. We have an individual spirit, and our individual spirit has been on its own journey to brighten and cultivate itself. At the same time, you belong to one family for a very, very long time. And it's not that you come back into another life immediately after you leave your physical life behind. It can take thousands of years sometimes. So you are connected to many generations of ancestors in one family, and 4 generations of your ancestors are meant to look after your life. So you have the cultivation and brightness of your individual spirit, which may be different to your siblings. At the same time, you have the same family karma and heaviness from your ancestors as your siblings, and you're affected by your ancestors' spirit, and maybe different ancestors, depending on your personality or your character, might tune to different family members. So yes, we have to heal, we have to cultivate and brighten and make ourselves a better person and do a lot for others. At the same time, we have to heal the past and help our ancestors who don't have a physical body to change the energy vibration of their spirit. Just have a look for the questions. Someone's asked me, if you have children and you start your own ancestor healing, will this automatically heal their line too, without them having to do the healing? Yes. So your children, if you do ancestor healing, that completely helps your siblings if they're unmarried, and all your children, and it helps a lot of your family members. It helps your parents, but of course they're a generation up, so they have slightly different ancestors. The branches go out further for them. And I showed you that family tree earlier. If you have one of the consultations, we can actually go through your family tree and ask you a few questions. You don't need to know all your ancestors, but we can explain the different branches that influence you, because of course, if you are married or living with someone or have children with someone, then you can be influenced by their energy pattern and ancestors pattern as well as step parents and things like that. So it's complicated. So someone's asked, if you're estranged from your family, how do you feel? How do you heal your ancestors' karma? It's a good question. A lot of people who have bad relationships with their family, or one side of their family, or never knew their father or something like that, they often don't want to heal that part of the line, but actually it's more important if there are problems. So you don't need to know all your family details, and there are plenty of people that don't. But everybody has a father and mother, so you have to heal both their lines, even if you never met your parents. So for example, if you were adopted and you don't know your biological parents, you would need to heal the energy branches for your adoptive parents and also your biological family. There's lots of questions coming through. So my mother and I both have digestive issues, and so did my grandmother. Do you think this could be inherited, and could your healing help with this? It depends. I think we would have to talk individually. The digestive area and the abdomen area is the most sensitive area of the body. It's where all the energy channels meet, and it's where the main physical energy center is. So if you are born with a weak energy system there, which of course is originally from your ancestors, but it may be something that is your physical DNA and actually physical now, then you're more vulnerable to digestive problems. At the same time, our emotions can create blockages in our digestive system, and so can our ancestors. So it could be any of the three types of blockages. So if we had a personal consultation, or if you had an energy treatment, because we actually treat with energy, then we can sense the energy that's the strongest influence for you. So it may be a mixture of all three. It may be one more strongly than others. I think we would have to ask you a few more questions about that. When you say children, does that refer to adult children? All children. If you help your ancestors, whether your children are young or grown up, it will help them. One thing I will say though, if you are wanting to do ancestor healing to help your children or your parents or your siblings who have problems, say who have an addiction or who have a serious emotional or physical problem, I would like to say that it is not straightforward. You can lift the ancestor energy from your family members, but they have their own mind, they have their own life experiences, their own outlook on life. And as I said, your ancestors' energy and your emotional energy are very mixed up. So you can help them to heal the karma and ancestors' patterns, but you can't change anyone else's mindset for them. They have to want to change, they have to want to heal, they have to want to change themselves as well. But it's a wonderful gift to give any of your family members. And I saw lots of changes in my family. I'm not sure they'd agree, but I saw changes across my family. Someone's asking, do you need to know exactly what you need to change? No, a lot of people, a lot of people that come to us are just on a spiritual journey who want to develop, who want to heal and understand the concept that there are layers that we need to change. So you don't have to have something specific in mind. To be honest, that creates more attachment and expectation. And we have to change all the layers happily. And I think there was another question about anorexic children. I have treated quite a few teenagers and people, and also adults with anorexia, and I don't want to get too involved in a very complex subject, but there are people are born with tendencies to have certain patterns. There is certainly an emotional and a mental part to the disease. At the same time, people are born with a sensitivity to the spirit, invisible energy they can't see, that hugely affects them. So I have seen from my eyes that children with anorexia and also people who develop addictions, they tend to be more sensitive people and more aware, or maybe not aware, but more affected by the other types of energy and invisible energy around them, which really affects their mindset and emotions. So yes, can we help? It's not that simple. I would suggest have a consultation about it. So if any of you actually want to come on video and ask me a question, you can raise your hand. You are most welcome. Otherwise, I'll keep answering the questions that come through. But yeah, please do. Yeah, you have to, I think, not being very technical myself, but you have to press the button that means you raise your hand. And then if I can see there are a few there. So we'll pick one of you. And then you need to turn your video and your audio on. So I think Katie.
Hello.
Hi, Katie.
Hi. I've spent a long time, I'm a songwriter, and I've spent a long time, and most of my work is about my ancestors, because my grandfather was in Auschwitz. Right. And my other side of the family, my great-grandfather was in the Boer War in the First World War, and I've had a lot of interest in military history.
Yes.
And it's quite an unusual thing for a woman to have an interest in. Yes. But I'm finding that a lot of the anger from the past, it has arisen since my mother's death. How do you help with grief? And obviously there's lots of healing to do, because my mother was brought up in the Iron Curtain, so there's a lot of vibrational problems there that I'm aware of, but it's almost very scary to even
take it on,
because I've already approached it by writing the songs, but I understand how hard it is.
Yeah, so when you a lot of artists, I think, are very sensitive and creative people, and that they express themselves through the music or art, or And sometimes that's their emotions, sometimes they're picking up the vibration that they want to express from their ancestors. So there are a few things here. When you mentioned war, of course, there's been 2 world wars in the last 100 years. A lot of our, recent ancestors have been through really traumatic or difficult times. And also when you think about the kind of lifestyle at that time, they didn't express their emotions, and they didn't maybe deal with some of the trauma, and they were meant to have a kind of a stiff upper lip when they came back from war, if they came back. And so I think there is so much pain and so much trauma there for so many ancestors, and it does come up for some people who are sensitive. They have kind of dreams or kind of feelings about that kind of thing when they're doing the course and the process. And also the person leading the ceremony and leading the course, we're often very sensitive to energy and can feel what some of the ancestors are feeling. And war, yes, I think it is a major thing that needs healing. So when you do the ancestor healing, you don't necessarily know the individual ancestors, but you are trying to change the vibration. So the energy and light goes through you to them, and you actually feel more peaceful and more stable as that happens. So normally at the end of the chanting or the ceremony, you feel much clearer and more settled, as that changes their vibration, and they start to clear the patterns and problems and pain that they have. Because actually after death, when you leave your body behind, you suddenly realize what you're holding on to and what you're carrying. And sadly, a lot of ancestors have so many regrets and so many things that they wish they'd done or let go of, and they can't change it without a physical body. So through you, they are purifying their pain and their problems. It can be a bit up and down. If you're sensitive, you can feel heavy and it can be difficult, but you also start to feel much lighter. And then the second part you asked about grief. If you've lost someone that you were close to and that you really care about and you really love, then the ceremony can be a way to offer your love and to come to terms with their passing. And it's a series of 4 ceremonies, and it's very, very beautiful. And you can prepare the food and offerings to them of things that they liked. And we have had a lot of people who do the ceremony for their loved ones who pass away, their parents, or sometimes someone who passes away too soon. And it gives a lot of peace, both to them, but we also believe for the person who's passed away, which lifts that kind of heavy feeling from the family. So it's actually a very beautiful process. And I have one story actually I might share with you. I had a client who came for treatments for pains in her head, and she was developing such severe head pains, they were sharp pains more than a headache, that it was stopping her from working. And she came to have energy treatments with me, and she got a lot of benefit. But she was very, very open-hearted, and we started talking about her life. And she, this was actually many, many years ago, but she explained that she'd lost her mother tragically 10 years before she came to see me. And her mother had a tragic accident. She actually fell whilst she was away, and she fell on her head and she died. And the girl who saw me had obviously worked through a lot of the tragedy and the pain. I can't say it ever goes away, but the girl was having pains in her head. And so I introduced the ceremonies for healing the ancestors. And because it was 10 years on, it wasn't so raw for her. And she wasn't really interested in doing the different family branches, but she just did the ceremony just for her mother. And she came for the 4 weeks, and she prepared the food and offered it. And she of course, she originally came to change the physical problems she was having. And actually they did the pains in her head, which is interesting, it's connected to her mother's accident, did ease tremendously. But she said what she got out of the process was actually being able to let go of the tragedy and the pain, and it gave her so much relief. It's very beautiful, the ceremony. They're very sacred, and a lot of preparation and thought goes into them, and it's treated with a lot of respect. So yeah, I hope that answer your questions.
I haven't, prepared myself visibly today, but yes, I'm just quite relieved today because I got a 4-star review in Mojo magazine for my new album.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, which is called Providence, and it's inspired by intergenerational trauma. And
okay.
So I booked to see you on Monday, and I'm looking forward to the session.
Great. Well, I look forward to talking to you. So thank you for coming on and sharing and asking your questions. Okay, so I'm going to ask some more questions and see if anyone else wants to come onto the video. So let's, if you can put your hand up if you would like to ask a question. I'm just going to have a question here that's come through. Someone suffered from panic disorder since they were a young adult, and which I thought was hidden. Now that your 3 adult children are suffering from the same problem. Can this be healed through ancestor healing? Yes. So yeah, I would again need to know more background to the situation and what started your you having panic attacks and when your children started having panic attacks. It does sound very much like you are picking up the energy or pattern from somewhere, but I don't know your story or what happened. So like I said, ancestor healing is not an instant or cure for everything, because we have a body, mind and spirit, and we have many experiences in our life, many emotions, many things that are going on in our lifestyle. They're interlinked. So that's really worth booking a consultation for, so we can identify whether it's coming from ancestors. But all I would say is that even if you're trying to heal something emotionally that has happened in your life, that's definitely one of your emotions, it still helps to heal your ancestors, because you create this really stable and peaceful and clear foundation that helps you to embrace difficulties and problems much more easily. And like I mentioned, how light and clear I felt, that's never gone back. I think I have a much greater capacity for stress, to deal with stress. I have a much more compassion, much more ability to accept, because I'm not so bombarded by all these different energies and emotions from previous generations invisibly. Okay, so yeah, I think somebody wants to come on.
I'd like to ask about when I sleep, I used to find myself, I'm talking with my grandfather,
Yes.
just talking things with me, and I used to hear voice like, you won't make it. Who are you to make it in life? Who are you, like if I was having a hope like to buy a car, who are you to buy a car? You cannot make it. Like I used to hear negative things.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have a spirit like my husband is sick, is suffering of sickness, and we cannot even recognize in the hospital. Also, like I get it again, like a chest pain. I get to feel chest pain and the stomach, just funny things.
Okay, well, I'll definitely, the dreams and hearing your ancestors is actually much more common than you probably think it is, because when people leave their physical body, you know, the visible and invisible world exists together. So we're actually always living with invisible things and invisible energy all the time. They are just people, like you're living with your friends and family, but they are stuck and they can't change themselves. But the spirit, the energy of those who don't have a physical body is more active at nighttime. So often people who are sensitive are affected at nighttime, and it's very common for people to wake up at 3 a.m. This is something I've heard over and over again. It's the time when the invisible world is waking up. But yes, in terms of dreams and messages, it is more prominent at nighttime. So it could be your grandfather, it could be just that you're picking up another energy, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what your ancestors are trying to say to you. It just may be that the patterns that they died with, you know, their own fears, or their parents used to say to them, you're not good enough, or you'll never make anything. So it may not be a message for you. You may just be picking up the thought of someone and the feeling they have. The other thing, it may not be your ancestors, it may be the spirit or the imbalanced energy in your home, and when you're sleeping, you're picking up on that. But generally, you heal some of the ancestor lines, then you're more protected. And then also you talked about your health for you and your husband. Then, of course, that is hard to know what that's from, and maybe it's worth you booking a personal chat, and we can have a chat about that. But yeah, dreams is not uncommon, and it's not pleasant. And some people, they wake up in the night and they feel kind of paralyzed. There's such extreme things from the spirit, and you know, people die and they're suffering. They're desperate for help because they didn't clear their pain or problems during their lifetime. We are meant to die with a bright, clear mind and spirit. We're meant to die happily. And sometimes people die tragically, they die too quickly, they die too young, they die in war. or they die and they're still so angry at someone, or they still have all these wishes they didn't resolve, or they're addicted to something. And then, you're addicted to alcohol and you die addicted to alcohol. You're still going to the pub after death. So you just don't have a physical body, just hanging around anybody having a drink. So it sounds very peculiar, but there's a whole invisible world connected to our visible existence. I hope that answers your question, but let's have a chat. Why don't you book for the consultation and we can talk about it and how to help you.
I booked already.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming online and thanks for sharing your questions. Okay, so I have some more questions here. Someone's asking if I can explain the course in more detail and how it works. Yes, of course. I didn't explain it too well. So it's a 3-week course, and the main part of the course is the ceremonies, where before the ceremony, we prepare and offer the food, which you can do, or if you're joining online, we will do for you. And we put a lot of love, a lot of energy, and a lot of heart into that preparation. So it's like if you have your family around for a meal or someone you love dearly, you show your love through your effort, through what you cook, through what you buy, the flowers, and you put all this energy in it. And that energy we offer to the invisible world with gratitude. And also the food offered, a lot of people die hungry, and food that they recognize gives them some comfort after death. So that when you offer the food, the ancestors feel more peaceful. But that's the preparation. The actual ceremony is about transmitting light and energy and changing the vibration of the spirit and mind of the ancestors so that they can release these stuck thoughts and patterns and karma and darkness that they have built up through your body and mind. So before the ceremony, normally the day or 2 days before, most people who are sensitive, some people breathe through it and feel nothing, but most people feel heavy or tired or a bit emotional or irritable. And you do need to be conscious and careful not to have too many arguments with other family members, or to, just to be aware that you are doing ancestor healing. And then through the ceremony, we do chanting, and the leader of the ceremony transmits energy and light to ancestors, and after you feel much more peaceful. And the ceremonies are a week apart. And during the ceremonies, we ask you to do daily chanting, which you can join live classes, or you can do in your own time, if it's easier when you get up in the morning or go to bed at night. So you have 3 weeks, 21 days, where the period is really a prayer and sacred time for your ancestors. You can work, you can have a normal life, but you will most likely feel a bit heavier than normal. So it's a process of 4 ceremonies and chanting, and then we would need to have a consultation with you to see which different branches affect you and guide you what to do. So I hope that helps. We do have a booklet to explain the process in more detail. So book a consultation and then we can get your details and pass that on to you. So is there anybody else that would like to come on and ask a question? And maybe there are any other questions? I think that's almost everything. So this doesn't have to be your last opportunity to ask any questions. I really would encourage you to find out. It's not just about ancestors. We are dealing with energy. We offer energy treatments, energy classes for you to look after your own well-being that can be done online with meditation, chanting, energy movements. And also we do the more spiritual healing for ancestors. And different things help different people. And none of those things may be what you are interested in. But if you want to have a chat about your blockages and understand more about energy and discuss your personal situation, then please, book with us. We'd be really happy to chat with you and answer any more questions that you have. Thank you very much for joining today's talk. It's a Friday night. Appreciate you being online, and I hope you enjoyed it and you got something out of it. Okay.